everybody. So today our coloring continues, and we're going to actually use some Zig water real brush markers, okay? And what I'm going to do first, because there's going to be a lot of layers to this, I'm taking this pale bucket here and I'm going to ink it up with the hybrid black ink, and I'm stamping it on some masking paper. And then I'm going to move this to the side and I'm going to stamp it on my card front piece. I'm just going to ink it up and stamp it down. And I'm just using my piercing mat because of the clear stamps. Alright, so once I get those done, now we're going to, hold on, I just had to grab the ink real quick. Okay, I'm laying out the different leaves that I want to use for this project, and I'm putting it to the side, the pail, while I stamp the different leaves on the masking paper as well, because we're going to layer up our leaves so that some are behind, some are standing out more towards the front, and it makes the basket, or the pail look like it's more full. So once you stamp it on the masking paper, you're just going to do a quick little fussy cutting. And I like doing, this particularly right here only because it's so easy, it's not any intricate cuts or places you got to get in between. You just cut around the object and your masking paper is, your little mask, piece is done. Boop. So we'll take off the backing and then put that down there. But before we do that, I'm going to cut out the leaves. And just a little quick tip, I like to have a small piece because it works better in my hands. But what you want to do is keep your scissors still as best you can and just move the paper. Sometimes I do find that I will move my scissors every once in a while, and I'll try and stop myself because habit makes you want to move the scissors. But really the best way is to just move the paper and leave the scissors still. And then we're going to cut out the small one here, doing the same thing. Like I said, these are super quick because it's not really a whole lot to it. And then once you have those cut out, I'm going to go ahead and take the backing off and put the masking down on the pail, making sure it's all lined up even. And then we're going to start stamping our leaves. And this whole thing is going to be just these two different leaf sides. That's it. So what I did is I put the smaller stamp on one side and the bigger leaf on the other. So all I have to do is flip it over, ink it up, and then, continue stamping. And then once we have these layers down, I'm going to take the maskings for the flowers and lay them down. And then what that'll do is that'll put the next set of flowers behind them, and these ones will stay towards the front. And all you do is move your masking tape around and you keep stamping. And the whole idea is just so that you don't have a whole bunch of lines crisscrossing over each other. If you don't mind it, then you can go ahead and stamp away. But if you're trying to create that dimension, a little bit of depth to it, then I just suggest using the masking paper. And then once we take off all the masking, you see how it looks like the leaves are just floating, or not floating, or like right inside the pail. And then I'm just putting one more. I decided that I wanted one to look like it had fallen out of it. And then there's the front of our card. Alright, and so now we're going to do our coloring. And I'm only using these 5 colors here. And for the most part, the pale we're going to do just in kind of like this warm gray color. And then what I do is I take, like, if I want like hints of reddish tones or maybe some of the blue just kind of peeking through, you know, just to show some aging to it, then what I'll do is I'll lay some of that color down, whatever that color is. We'll take the gray and go over it, but I'll also do that tip to tip technique where I'm taking some of the color onto the gray like we're doing right here, and then it blends the color out. Okay, and you can kind of see it just over here where I'm putting all my shadows. You can see the tip to tip method is just blending that blue out where it gives the pale that added dimension, like it's been sitting outside and it's got some rust and some, maybe it had some blue in it at one point and now it's just, you know, a shadowed memory. So we're just going to keep on layering the colors. And what I'm trying to do is keep the middle lighter and then on the ends bringing the shadow, you know, from the end and lighten it up as it gets to the center. And there you can see a little bit of the blue up close. And then I decided to grab a little bit of the yellow and just give it a little bit of a hint. Now initially I was going to try and use the water brush, but I decided as I was, you know, putting down the colors, the best method even for the leaves were going to be the tip to tip. It seemed to work better with blending for this particular paper I was using, and I'm so sorry when I did this video I did not write down what paper I used, but you can tell by the texture of your paper how it's going to work. If it's more coarse, like a thick watercolor, then you may need more water than just doing the tip to tip to the color, okay? If it's something that's smooth, like a basil, or I know in the scrapbooking boutique they have the Nina, like the Nina Solar White. That is a smooth cardstock, so doing the shadings and adding color using the actual markers works a lot easier. And that's all we're doing. We're going through each flower. If I want to add the yellow or the reds, tones, or orange, I take the lighter color and I use it to put down, to blend out, I guess I should say, the shadow color. So like on the blues, I like the blues, but to blend it out, I use the yellow, so that way as it's spreading, it's giving me a little bit of a green color. And all you do is take your time and do each flower. I try to spread it out so that way the two colors aren't right next to each other. And if it's a bigger flower, I may do like the orange, and then like on certain parts of it I'll add in some red, or just make the yellow by itself. It all depends. I just want to show it like fall leaves, like if you were outside and you were looking at the trees, how they all have the wonderful different shades. So once again, I laid down the red, touched the tip with the yellow, and then I'm blending it in. So with the red, even though I already have an orange marker out, instead of using that one, I create orange using the yellow with the red. So it's giving us lots of layers. And I hope this is okay, or everybody is seeing it well, only because I know I had to speed it up some, but once you learn this, because I learned the tip-to-tip method using Copics, and one day I was like, I wonder if I can use it with these, and lo and behold, you can. So when you learn different techniques, you can try it with similar mediums, and who knows what you can create. You know what I mean? I would never have thought to try it with this, but in watching, you know, and learning with the regular markers, the alcohol markers, I got a technique that now works also on my watercolor. Alright, and here we go. We're finishing up the last flower. And then I'm going to grab the light gray. I'm just putting the caps back on the markers, but I got a light gray that I'm going to use to create the flooring, to give it somewhere to sit. And then part of the sentiment, there's a lot of little ones on this particular stamp set that I have. It's an older one that I've had in my stash, so but I'm just grabbing it just so I can give it a quick little, you know, sentiment right on the front, just to finish off the card. So for this one, I put Harvest of Blessings. And then, oh, okay, right there real quick, I added on the handle for our tin. And at first I was thinking I was okay with that, I could live with it, but then I brought out my VersaFine Black Onyx ink, which tends to be a much crisper and brighter black ink. So after I do the sentiments here, I'm going to re-stamp the handle so that way it stands out a little bit more. Here we go, Harvest of Blessings. And then here we go, one more time with that VersaFine, excuse me. And then you can see even just where it's sitting, that handle is standing out. And then it's going to go on top of blue cardstock that I have. So I'm just going to go ahead and use my tape runner. Right here I actually went and trimmed it down some because there wasn't enough blue sticking out. So it was just real quick, just so that I could have a little bit more of that blue from the cardstock peeking out. I really like how that finishes it off. And right here we really could have added some more stuff. I'm in the process of setting up and doing some more organizing in my room, so my sequins aren't right next to me, but this card definitely could have had a few sequins on it, but we'll just leave it like this for now. Alright, so you saw me there put the grounding on the bottom, so it has that little bit of gray, and there's our complete card. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. Make sure you hit the like, subscribe, and please share. And I will see you guys with our next video. And at the end, I'm going to have 2 links. One to our video from last week, and then one to another random video that you guys may enjoy, okay? So thank you for joining me again, and have a great day.